Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Just Interesting podcast, episode 132. Wow, 132. That was the number of the house that I grew up in. Just a little bit of trivia for you there. Yeah.
Wow, that was I didn't know that. That's news to me.
Well, I mean, I don't know why it would come up in normal conversation, but there you go. How are you, Robin? How's it going?
Oh, well, thank you. I'm recovering slowly from a heat wave that we've had in the U of K recently.
We have.
It's been awful.
We've had a record, records have been broken again for another year in a row. It's probably okay. It's probably fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Nothing to worry about.
But look, let's forget about us doing the classic British thing of talking about the weather within the first few minutes. For those of you who haven't watched the Just Interesting podcast before, we talk about anything and everything that we find just interesting. Today, we are going to be looking at films, and films that maybe quite eerily or spookily predicted the future. But before we jump into that, we are going to be looking at some of our favorite comments from the past week on our YouTube channel. And also, we are going to be discussing a riddle. Robin, would you like to hear a riddle?
I'd love to hear a little, Alex.
Okay. This one, I don't know. It might be easy, it might be difficult. We'll see. Okay, here you go. Here's one for you. I can be cracked. I can be played. I can be told. I can be made. What am I? I'll say it one more time for those in the back. I can be cracked. I can be played. I can be told. I can be made. What am I?
I can be cracked. Sounds like an egg. You can make an egg.
You can make an egg, but can you told an egg? Can you?
I can't tell an egg.
Can you play an egg? I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah.
Well, you may have to wait until the end of the episode, in which where I will reveal the answer to this riddle. But if you do know the answer, feel free to write it in the comments down below on YouTube, or feel free to get in touch with us at x.com, the artist formerly known as Twitter. I'm at just Alexing.
I'm at All Time Robin.
Or you can message us directly at jinterestingyt.
And don't forget, I just want to say that there is a third member of the party, which is at martinteresting on X/Twitter. Feel free to bombard him with all of your thoughts and well wishes on his latest discovery. It's a big one.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be, when he's back on the podcast, he's going to tell us all his amazing new discovery. I don't want to spoil it for him. It's not fair of me to spoil that. But he's got some big news, everyone. Some massive news.
And we are supporting him every step of the way in his massive news for when he gets back onto the podcast. We've just dug Martin a massive hole when he comes back. Yes. But before we jump into our favorite comments of the past week, I believe we have some extra special people that we would like to thank. And that is, of course, our Patreon members and our YouTube supporters. Thank you, everyone, so much if you are supporting us over on Patreon or becoming a member on the YouTube channel. Robin, did you have anyone in particular you'd like to mention?
Oh, I did, Alex. I would love to thank, in particular, James, Rashad Najar, Caleb Wilkerson, Kurt Jones, John Baker, Janie, Henny Ruffle, The Super Show Podcast, Nicholas Dill, Emmett Tapia, or Emmett Tapia. Please do let us know, Emmett. Have I been mispronouncing your name all these years? Ahmad, Peaswad, Josh Chomatek, A Filthy Casual, Simon Workman, and Captain Wonky. Thank you all so much, you special people.
Yes, thank you all so much. You are the lifeblood of this channel and you keep us going. And if you would like to support us, then feel free to. I think last time we checked, there's around 130 bonus episodes of A Little More Interesting that you can find over on our Patreon channel. If you can't get enough of us talking about things. I think the last one we did was actually going through some more Am I the Arsehole posts, which seems to be a popular one that people seem to enjoy, and we enjoy doing them. There was a bit of a disagreement between us in the last one, actually. It got a bit spicy, so you may want to check it out. But yes, Robin, did you have any favorite comments from the past week?
Yeah, a couple, actually, because it's going to sound very egotistical now, just or narcissistic at least, talking about myself. But last time we discussed a comment about a recommendation of who would play you in the movie, Alex, and it was brilliantly, I thought, Matt Berry.
I'm very happy with that. I think that's a fantastic
choice. And then we had a couple of comments of people recommending actors to play me from Michael Bielawa Jr.
I think
I've completely got that right.
I've also struggled to say that username before in the past.
Yeah. YouTube member says to play Robin in a movie, Eddie Redmayne or Sean Evans, which I'm very flattered. Very flattered.
What do you think of Eddie Redmayne as an actor?
I don't think he's a bad actor.
No, I don't think he's a bad actor either at all. And I would take that as a compliment.
And Sean Evans was great in Endeavour, that TV series, prequel series to Morse. So yeah, I'm actually very flattered to be considered alongside them. I will say though, if Eddie Redmayne plays me, it has to be Eddie Redmayne from Jupiter Ascending.
What's his line in that? What's the thing that he says? The memed thing.
Oh, I can't remember now what that line is.
When he just goes really angry really quickly.
It's whispering and then shouting really loud.
Yeah, that's it.
With the eyeliner. That's what I want.
I had to look up Sean Evans. I haven't actually seen him in anything, but he does look a lot like you from the pictures.
Does he actually?
So I see
Thank
that,
you.
yeah. Do you know who I had in mind? I believe his name is Mark Evan Jackson. He's in a bunch of US TV shows, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and The Good Place. I know.
Oh yeah, him.
Jackson. Yeah, I think that's my pick for who would play you.
Again, thank you. That's quite a flattering comparison.
He's a good-looking chap.
He is 53 though, so I won't take it too personally.
Yeah, but no, this is we haven't discovered the treasure yet, Robin. Obviously, that's what this was. This was originally based on the fact that we discover a Fabergé egg clutched
in the hands of Rasputin.
Clutched in the hands of Rasputin's skeleton.
At the bottom of the river in Moscow.
Yeah. So if you do that in like 20, 30 years time, then Mark Evan Jackson, if we invent a time machine, can play you then. But we'll get him to do the film now and then release it when after the events actually happen. Of course,
let's raise the funds, and then the real treasure was the friends we made along the way.
Exactly.
But I would like to just, if I may, respond to another comment from James Linton 17, who says, if an actor is to play Robin in a movie, it would have to be someone who can match his soothing and melodious voice, which is very kind. Christopher Lee comes to mind, which genuinely, I'm a massive fan of Christopher Lee. And if I could sound like Christopher Lee sounds, I would be...
Christopher Lee does have a good voice. Made up. But you have a lovely voice as well, Robin.
Thank you.
I do fear, though, that ship has sailed, unfortunately.
What are you saying? Why? What's wrong with Christopher Lee?
Nothing.
Saying he's unavailable? You're saying? If anybody could act from beyond the grave, surely.
If anyone could, then yeah, absolutely.
So what comments would you like to respond to?
Well, this is a bit of a Robin-centric episode, but I've got a comment that I'm interested in. So this was actually on a video that you made a while ago on your Indiana Jones video, Robin. And Superlative Catalyst says, can't wait for your review of number 5. And what is your review of number 5? I haven't seen it, so no spoilers, please. But I'm interested to know what you think. Maybe summarize it in a sentence or two.
Yeah, well, you know better than most people, Alex, just how easy it is for me to go on a long rant when it comes to films. So I shall try to condense it into one short phrase, and I will say good but not great.
Oh, that's fair enough. Better than 4?
As a short summary. In some respects, yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. Feelings, I think, is the real summary. I have feelings, but mostly positive. Yeah.
Okay. In some respects, it's better than number 4. It's not the glowing review that you'd hope for, I guess.
I think that's it.
Needs more nuclear fridge. That's what it needs.
One would hope to be a bit more definitive. And that was the real surprise, I think, for me, coming out of number 5, was I never thought I would... I would feel this conflicted.
Wow.
After number 4.
Fair enough. And then one more comment I just wanted to say was from the last EMP 5437 says, finally seen you fellas suggested to me on YouTube again. Great. That's really good to hear. Glad to hear that. Maybe something with the algorithms working again. Who knows?
Fantastic.
Maybe too soon to tell, but we'll see. But thanks. That's great to hear.
That's really good to know, yeah.
So, Robin, do you want to discuss possibly one of your favorite topics, and that is films, but specifically films that predicted the future?
The future. Yes, please.
Films that predicted the future. So the way that I reckon this should work is we just choose one and then alternate. Should we do that?
Yeah, that's a good idea, yeah.
I've got 3 that we could potentially discuss. So should I go first?
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should.
Well, the first one is a very quick one, and it's a bit freaky, especially given the day that we're recording this, and the day. Well, it'll be close to the date when this podcast goes out.
I see. Yep.
September 11th, and I wanted to discuss Super Mario Brothers, not the film that's just come out, but the 1993 version, which is obviously, Oscar bait when it came out, widely received critical acclaim, was a commercial smash hit at the box office. No, it wasn't. Everyone hated it, and it was a commercial flop.
It really was.
But it did develop a sort of cult following over the years, and had a strange, weird moment in it where the film depicts, towards the end, it depicts New York City, like the skyline, and when the Cooper's home collides with New York City, it shows the Twin Towers, and it shows them kind of dismantled and decayed, and looking how they looked, after the first plane had smashed into them, basically.
Really?
It's almost unnervingly similar. And of course, this was 8 years before it actually happened. And maybe we'll put a picture up on screen if we can remember of this point in the film. But and the towers slowly reveal structural damage before phasing completely out of sight. It's one of those weird coincidences, I guess. I don't think anyone would deliberately say that Super Mario Brothers predicted 9/11, but it's one of those weird things.
But would you be willing to speculate that a certain well-educated, wealthy, but now very politicized leader of a countercultural movement in Afghanistan might watch this film in 1993 and think, that's a good idea. Maybe they saw that film and felt so angry about the crimes of the West. Sorry, it's getting really dark. Oh, man.
I mean,
if they made it to the end of the film, they'd probably be feeling quite angry, and they already don't like America. And then they'd see that and think, I'm going to do that. I'm just saying, maybe.
No one actually asked why they hate the West, did they? It was largely because of the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Found a secret manifesto hidden in a drawer when that secret raid happened at night, and it was there, top of the list. Super Mario Brothers, the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was my first one. What have you got from me, Robin?
So I've got, I leapt at the chance to talk about the 1936 British film, Things to Come.
Ah, yes.
Have you heard of it? You've heard this?
I have not heard of it, and I am very unfamiliar with it. Yes, that 1936 film.
So this is one of those films that I think it was based on a story by H.G. Wells, but it was made in 1935 and released in February 1936, and it was lost for some time. So it made an impact when it came out. It was well received, and then it disappeared and it became kind of legendary. And one of the reasons it became legendary was because not only was it quite good, but it made lots of predictions about the future, as the title suggests. And it starts in 1935, I think, and then predicts a world war will tear the world apart, and it's all set in the UK, and then casts its mind into the future and says, how will society rebuild itself after a devastating world war?
Okay.
And one of the many things it predicts, a couple of the things it predicts I want to draw attention to are, it shows, and this was mind-blowing to me when I saw it because it made me think about something for the first time. This black and white film has classic miniature effects, and it has a miniature effect of a helicopter flying through the earth, through the air across the country. And I just thought, couldn't they afford a helicopter for this shot? And I thought, wait a second, when was the helicopter invented? I haven't seen many helicopters in World War II footage.
Yeah.
So this 1935 film has a helicopter in it, and it's a special effect because the first helicopter wasn't built until September the 14th, so anniversary of it this week, 1939.
Wow, okay. Wow.
And then the first actual kind of useful helicopter that could transport multiple people and carry significant weight wasn't really developed until the late 1940s after the Second World War, and that's why they didn't become a feature of military usage until the 1960s, really.
And this helicopter in the film, did it look like a helicopter, like a one that you would
just
recognize?
Like a helicopter.
Wow.
It looks.
Okay.
Yeah, you'd see it and think, oh, it's a helicopter. Which is why, like I said, I had this very casual moment of just like, I wonder why they got a miniature for that helicopter, and I was like, it's because helicopters didn't exist.
Wow, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And then they also have, in these sequences set in the future, they have people living in these big kind of white, clean buildings. And inside these white, clean buildings that look a little bit like an Apple store, you have these gigantic, clear glass, flat screen TVs, essentially.
Nice. Yeah, wow. Very impressive.
That's spot on. That's spot on. But the TV, when was the TV invented, Alex?
Oh, that's a difficult one to say, isn't it? I reckon 1949.
Well, you're a little bit out.
Oh, go on.
I'm just trying to find the date of the first available TV.
I wonder with that, were there any prototypes of like helicopters before then? So it was 1930. Did you say 1949 was the first helicopter? Or 39?
1939. So this is where it kind of gets into interesting discussion about when does a film predict the future and when does a film just
look at what's happening and
do its research. So, for example, the TV, the John Logie Baird demonstrated his TV in 1923, but the first commercially available TVs weren't on the market for a couple of decades. So after this film was released, helicopters, though, I mean, Da Vinci's got a drawing of a helicopter. Famously.
Very true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I think one of the first flying machine attempts, which was unsuccessful, was in 1904. And it was a helicopter type, it was a rotor type machine. And of course, the whole plot premise of a world war, tearing it apart, might seem prophetic in a film in 1935. But it's not like the world was ignorant of the dangers of Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
Which obviously Hitler came to power in 1933.
It wasn't an unheard of thing at that point because there had already been the Great War.
Yeah. There had been a Great War, yeah. It's not entirely perfect, though, the film. It does go a little bit far in a couple of places. So, for example, I think the bulk of the narrative is set in the 1970s, the far future of the 1970s. And it predicts, or it shows, mankind making its first trip to the moon in the 1970s. So,
that's not far off.
It's not far off. Yeah, it's pretty close. However, the method they use to get to the moon in the film is, and I'm not joking, literally a giant cannon, and they shoot people from this cannon to the moon.
I mean, did you know that they are working? There is a program currently working at inserting satellites into orbit by firing them with a cannon. Yeah, it spins it round. It's like a massive circular
like a
slingshot thing that ramps up, spins it round faster and faster and faster and faster, and then fires it out of one end of it at an angle. and it's meant to just chuck it into orbit or get it most of the way there, and then a rocket takes over.
That's built on the satellite.
That's built on the
thrusters
satellite
or something.
But it gets
actually, that kind of makes sense.
It gets
that's
it through
reusable
most of,
in theory, isn't it?
Gets it through most of the atmosphere.
See, now I'm disappointed they haven't done that already, because all those years of wasted giant rockets full of fuel and just littering outer space and burning up in the atmosphere, when they could have just thrown them into space with this giant catapult.
There are drawbacks to that, though. The reason, in order to get that, if you think about how fast it has to spin, for it to get enough momentum, the actual satellite has to be very heavy and very dense, and so the problem is whatever it flings up won't burn up in the atmosphere when it comes back down. So you just have raining metal bullets basically back down to Earth. So there are flaws with that.
Okay. Well, that's a problem for the future, Alex. They can figure that out.
Yeah.
So technology in the future. Yeah.
I don't know if it's any better environmentally wise than if that's the issue.
I imagine the energy consumption of that giant slingshot is probably quite.
Yeah. I think practically it might not be as useful on Earth. However, on Mars or the Moon, this is a very interesting idea. For some time in the future. So I would also have that as a check in the prediction bucket, maybe.
Thanks.
That counts. Yeah. What was the name of that film again, Robin?
Things to Come.
Things to Come. Interesting. Very good. Thank you for that. Well, I'm going to take us even further ahead to the 90s again. And I wanted to talk about The Truman Show, which actually came out in 1998. So again, it might be full victim to the whole, is it predicting the future or is it just extrapolating on what's happening? So for those of you who don't know, The Truman Show is about a man called Truman who is, unbeknownst to him, his entire life is being filmed for a TV show called The Truman Show. And when he tries to make attempts to leave, everyone in his life is a paid actor. People in his life, randomly advertise products, seemingly at random, and quite confusingly ham-fisted it into his conversations with him. But his whole life is consumed by 24/7 cameras pointed directly at him. And I think this is now, obviously it's not the same in 2023, but our society's kind of borderline obsession with almost a new phase of reality TV, I think, has taken over this voyeuristic programming geared around watching people in their everyday lives. You look at things like The Bachelor in Paradise, Big Brother, obviously, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. We have this kind of obsession with reality TV shows. And also, I would say it's also kind of gone one step further, and you get these Twitch streams and like online streams where people make money just by streaming themselves 24/7. You get like sleep streams, don't you, where people stream themselves sleeping.
Do they?
Not doing anything, just sleeping. And people just watch that. And I feel like anytime I see a news story about that, I'm like, that's so Truman Show. That's very Truman Show vibes. And I think it's almost like it's only a matter of time until there's a stream of some guy who doesn't even know that he's being filmed. That's online and goes viral. Do you know what I mean? Like I could definitely see that happening.
I think you're right. And in a way, there's already an aspect of that happening with all this people's phone footage and going up online and Ring cameras and things like that. People doing stuff unknowingly outside other people's houses, and then people loading the videos to TikTok or whatever. All that has to do is turn into a 24-hour live stream. I think you're right. That's going to happen. That's scary, actually. Because in the film, the cameras are hidden in all kinds of clever places, inside the car mirror or inside his shaving mirror, or these tiny cameras in the door knocker. And at the time, that was kind of plausible, but very sci-fi, all these tiny, tiny cameras. But now it's like, yeah, absolutely. You could have a 8K resolution camera hidden in someone's doorbell. You could definitely do that.
And one thing I always think about, or that reminds me of this, that makes me very uncomfortable is, you get like YouTubers and TikTokers and stuff who are like family run YouTube accounts and stuff where it's like the mum or the dad that film the kids and like their daily activities.
Oh,
it's like
yes.
these kids don't realize it yet, but their entire lives are going up online for like people to watch.
They are Truman. Yeah, you're right.
That kind of is the Truman Show, isn't it?
Yeah.
And they can't consent to that in the same way that Truman doesn't consent to it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, one, I don't know how that is even allowed. How is stuff like that allowed?
That's a good question.
How does YouTube allow stuff like that? It's mental. Yeah, I feel like the Truman Show was very... I know it's in 1998, but that was still pre any kind of social media, really. You had web forums, but that was as far as it went, really. You did have TV, and I guess... I wonder what the earliest example of reality TV is. When was the earliest? Was Big
I guess
Brother
game
before
shows,
that?
Probably. Game shows are the closest you get to reality TV.
Yeah.
And then Big Brother probably is
the start
first
of
proper reality TV
or
show.
Or Blind Date or something like that, maybe. Yeah, that's kind of a game show, dating shows.
But even then, it's kind of, outside the game show format or I was going to say even like those craft shows like, what was it called? There was like that Scrap Heap Challenge or stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Where you get even two teams.
There's a game format to that. Whereas I think the first show where it's just watching people do life, that's Big Brother, really, isn't it? And that was revolutionary. And it's funny because you just reminded me, there was a film called Shock Treatment from 1981, which is the sequel to Rocky Horror Picture Show.
There's a sequel to Rocky Horror Picture Show?
There is indeed. And it's a musical and it's got some really good songs. And it doesn't have Tim Curry in, sadly, which may be one of the reasons it's not very well known.
Yeah, that would be the reason 100% for sure.
But it follows the same main characters, Brad and Janet, from Rocky Horror Picture Show. And they're married now and they're going through some marriage troubles. So they go on a game show to kind of a marriage repair game show. But in order to get onto the game show, I think, if I remember the plot correctly, they basically move to this town and the entire town is in a TV studio. And everything they do is recorded and on TV.
Wow.
It's a reality TV show in the film from 1981. And the funny thing there is that I think, if I remember correctly, the only reason they came up with that concept is because they had no money. And they were like, oh crap, how are we gonna afford this on the budget we've got? And they're like, if we film it in a studio in England, we can turn the studio into the set, into the location.
Right.
Because it's set in a studio. So through purely pragmatic reasons of our budget's too small, we can't build proper sets. Let's make the studio the set itself. They have this huge cast of characters who live in a studio, but inadvertently have created reality TV in that film in 1981. Oh
wow, yeah. So that also counts as a prediction.
I think it does.
You've just made another one on the list. The sequel to Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah. Got some good songs. Listen to the soundtrack. I think it's on Spotify. Yeah.
No Tim Curry, though.
No, but it does have Barry Humphries, Dame Edna.
Oh, yeah.
He's in it.
Nice. Well, did you have any more that you wanted to discuss?
I did. I mean, I think Truman Show is a really great example of something that's really a film that's just intelligently thinking about where is society going, and really getting it right. And I'd like to discuss, because we kind of have to, I think, Star Trek in a similar vein.
Whoa!
But possibly
exclusively the films, though, right, Robin?
I'll stick to a film, but I think it's worth mentioning Star Trek a bit more broadly, if that's all right with you.
I'll allow it this one time, but yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
We don't have teleporters, Robin. So what are you getting?
We don't have teleporters. No, we don't. And I think so. This is where I think Star Trek's a fascinating case study in what's the difference between predicting and just making an educated guess, or in the case of Star Trek, inspiring the future.
Yeah.
So in the 1986 film Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home, famously they introduced the concept of transparent aluminium or transparent aluminum, if you're American. Which is what all their starship windows are made out of. For years it was always a joke, like, what are the windows in space made of? You There's lots of glass. It would just crack under the pressure. And in Star Trek, well, it's made of aluminium, but it's transparent.
Oh.
And they introduced that concept in 1986. And as of 2020, I believe, it is now a mass-produced thing, transparent aluminium.
What?
Called aluminium oxynitride.
What?
Yeah.
This is a thing?
It's aluminium, and it's actually technically more of a ceramic than a metal. But it's transparent.
Can it be used in space as a replacement for glass?
I don't know, but
does it actually
used.
have high, strong tensile strength? And
Well, it's used in armor.
oh wow! So presumably, yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess it could be used in outer space. Yeah.
Interesting.
If it's tough enough to be armor. Yeah. So they made it. They absolutely made it. But here's the thing. It's called transparent aluminium. Partly because the people who made it were fans of Star Trek.
Yeah.
So they made it. It kind of occurred naturally, if that makes sense. They invented it, but it was kind of something they were working on, and it became real. And they chose to call it transparent aluminium.
Yeah, just even purely from a marketing point of view, I guess you would, wouldn't you?
You'd
appeal to all the nerds out there that would fund it.
Yeah, but some people have said, oh, it's actually technically. If you look at it like on the molecular level, it's not really a metal like aluminium, it's a ceramic, but it uses all the molecules in aluminium, and it's a modified version of aluminium, but you're kind of changing it from one thing into another. It doesn't really count. But I think that's an academic nerdy debate.
That's so cool though. Wow.
It is. I think that's awesome. But I think also when it comes to Star Trek, it's got some other things like famously the 60s show introduced the communicator, the flip communicator.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which people have quite rightly pointed out, that's basically a mobile phone. That's incredible. But is that predicting the future, or is that just a TV show in the 1960s recognizing that radios are a thing and thinking, well, 500 years in the future, the radios will be really small and you can hold them in your hand.
And have the designers of the flip phone grown up watching Star Trek and been inspired by that design and thought, this phone needs to flip. And they're like, why? That makes it 10 times harder to produce and manufacture. The phone has to flip. I will die on this hill.
And then we're going to go away from it for a while because flip phones are really bulky, and we're going to go into slim flip phones until the technology is right when we can make a slim phone a flip phone again. And now it's back. So, and then there's in the 80s, again, back to the 80s in Star Trek, Star Trek The Next Generation, all of its films, but they're inspired, they follow on from the TV series. Everything they do in the starships is touchscreens. Nice glass panel touchscreens, and even they're carrying around tablets. They've got what look like tablets. They're even the same size as an iPad, and they're tapping away on this touchscreen. And that absolutely is predicting the future, because nothing like that existed in the 1980s. That's literally just thinking, how can we make this be futuristic? And we're going to get rid of buttons, and just have everything as a flat touchscreen. But touchscreen technology was in its infancy by then, and flat screen TVs, LCDs, had actually been made in the 1970s. They just weren't commercially available until 1997. Wow. Yeah. So 1997 was the first flat screen TV, but LCD liquid crystal displays are actually invented in the 60s and then developed into working prototypes in the 70s. And then, so by the late 1980s, when Star Trek was doing its thing, it was just logically thinking, we know this technology exists in the background, so let's apply it to our depiction of the future, because it probably will be a thing. And I wonder, where did it cross the line? Is it actually predicting the future? I think it is, but maybe it's just being intelligent and trying to get ahead of the curve and saying, a bit like Stanley Kubrick with 2001: A Space Odyssey. Bold move to make it in 1968, a year before the moon landings. Yeah, but he did it, and he got it spot on. But is he predicting the future, or is he just being very intelligent and doing his research?
I mean, it's almost 2001 came and went. And we didn't go on a space odyssey to Jupiter. Or
This is true. This is true.
So, and we don't have a spaceship anything like what's shown in 2001. But I guess that's factored into the story, isn't it? But we didn't have a moon base, I guess. That's because in the film we discover the obelisk on the moon, don't we?
That's true. We've got a moon
prompts
base,
the technology.
Yeah.
The urge to build that spaceship and go out.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a moon base in 2001. But we did have in 2001, 1968, that there were video calling featured prominently in that film.
And flat screens, yes, actually.
Flat screen. So,
yeah. Yeah, actually.
The idea, I don't know when it was first theorized, but the idea of a spinning spaceship as well is one that scientists are actually looking at to simulate artificial gravity. So that was very ahead of its time.
Actually, yeah, totally.
And obviously with the whole rise in AI currently, fears about AI.
Oh, yeah.
Stanley Kubrick was on it.
I forget sometimes actually just how far ahead of its time that depiction of AI is. Because all AI in fiction basically is defined by what they did in 2001 with HAL 9000.
Yeah.
And I kind of forget that when you're creating that AI character in 1968 or 1967 when they made the film, you're inventing something new, and what stops you from just being wildly off the mark, and I guess that's where Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke, being such intelligent, knowledgeable people, were able to say, this is probably what AI would be like.
I mean, I think with 2001, it's almost I know he predicted, well, I know it's set in 2001, but it's almost too early to predict some of those things. Hopefully, but maybe AI will turn into something like that. But we don't know just yet, do we? There's no general purpose AI in existence.
Thankfully.
And
although
we don't have spaceships like that yet, but maybe we will.
But before you reveal your next one, whilst we're on the topic of AI, I don't know if you've heard of this. This is absolutely a case of life imitating art.
Yeah.
But did you know that Britain, the UK, Ministry of Defence has a network of strategic and tactical communication services through military communication satellites that they call Skynet.
They've seen the film, right? They've seen Terminator. Well, it doesn't end well. They must have done.
I know. Like, what is the goal? What is the goal?
Yeah, no, that's mad. Yeah. Well, you just know that as soon as any kind of functional AI, I mean, I'm sure it already does exist. I'm sure someone's made a ChatGPT app that is has the aesthetic of HAL 9000 from 2001 and that speaks in the voice to you. I'm afraid I can't do that, Robin. And sings Daisy. Daisy, Daisy, Daisy. Yeah.
Give me your answer too.
Oh, okay. So back to Star Trek then. Is there any other predictions that Star Trek makes, do you think? That we haven't spoken about?
Which it's not in it's in the series. It's not in the films.
I'll allow it. It's fine.
I hadn't actually written this down, but you just reminded me because I'm looking forward, I think is the word, to this happening. There's an episode. This moment was infamously banned in the UK in 1993, I think, or 1992. I think this episode came out where there's an episode about terrorists, and Data asks the question, or the ethical question of, can terrorism be justified because historically it has been shown to be effective? And he lists some historical examples, some of which are made up, some of which are true at the time of the early 1990s, and one of which is the Irish reunification of 2024.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So
you've got one year island.
A year island to prove Star Trek correct. So do it. Get on it.
Is that the reason why you want Ireland to reunify?
Because it's the only reason.
Because
I have no interest other than Star Trek.
Wow.
So yeah, what else have you would like to discuss?
Well, I'm on a bit of a 90s kick at the moment, and I'm also on a bit of a Jim Carrey kick after The Truman Show. So I want to go over to another one of his films around the similar time, a couple of years earlier, The Cable Guy.
Okay,
where
random.
Jim Carrey plays Chip Douglas, who's an eccentric cable guy. But one line that he says sticks out to me, and this was in 1996. He says, "Soon every American home will integrate their television, phone, and computer." And I think that is spot on to what we've got today with smart TVs, tablets. Your phone is a computer. Yeah. Your phone is a computer, a television, and a phone.
But they also communicate automatically. Like I'm always getting notifications if I turn on my TV.
Yeah.
If I turn on my PlayStation, immediately if I'm looking at YouTube on my phone at the same time, it comes up with a prompt and says, "Do you want to switch to your PlayStation?" You know, because it's just on the same Wi-Fi network, and there's all these devices that just by being connected to the same router, they all know, and they're like constantly prompting me to be like, "Do you want to switch to this device?" And I'm like, I kind of do, but I won't, out of stubborn refusal to bow to the machine.
The machines are just trying to help, Robin. Just let them. They're just trying to help. But I think this was in 1996, and I feel like it is probably in the category of just extrapolating what's going on. You know, being able to see where the future is going. It's not a super bold prediction, but I still think it's quite a good prediction. Back then, I mean, there was the internet, but it was still very early internet.
I think that's the kind of thing as well that at the time audiences would have either just not thought about or scoffed at.
Yeah, exactly. You'd have to have a really kind of in-depth working knowledge of like technology and where the technology is going.
I think you could easily, from the filmmaker's perspective, from Jim Carrey's perspective, you could easily get that wildly wrong, couldn't you?
Yeah.
That's a line in a movie that in a comedy or black comedy, but a comedy nonetheless. It's just about establishing this character's motivation in that moment, and you could easily say something that's way wrong, but you've thought about it and you said the exact right thing.
Soon, every American home will integrate their television, phone, and computer. It's a shame, though. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't. I wonder if his character Chip Douglas would also predict the mass amount of people that are actually cutting their cable. And I wonder if Chip Douglas could have seen giants like Netflix and Amazon Prime coming into the
HBO's
forefront.
Messy transition to
Max.
Discovery Max or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Do you? So, are there any other Jim Carrey predictions from the future that might be true?
But believe it or not, I'm not just a repository of things that Jim Carrey has said and done.
Okay.
Now I'm trying to think though. I don't want to let you down.
No, it's fine. No, I'm just thinking about
name some Jim Carrey films. What did he say in Liar Liar? Oh, what about? I haven't seen the film though, so I don't want to speculate too much, but Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, isn't that about kind of memory erasure? That's not really a thing, but could be a thing in the future, maybe.
Oh no, there is an experimental drug, I think, one or two, that are designed to treat trauma, aren't they? And isn't there one or two drugs in development?
Yeah.
They help treat that by basically disconnecting your memories.
Well, I'm sure even taking that away, the massive rise in people using like, anti-anxiety, antidepressant medication just to deal with living in 2023 is probably a prediction in its own right. So there you go, another Jim Carrey prediction.
I think another Jim Carrey movie may have predicted everything that's happened since 2016.
Okay.
A series of unfortunate events.
But I mean, Jim Carrey can't take credit for that because that's based off of a series of books. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening to that at home. And I hope if there are any more that you think that we missed, please let us know in the comments down below. Other ones that I was tempted to discuss was WALL-E. It's maybe, again, a bit too soon for WALL-E, but the kind of people obsessed with their screens, the climate catastrophe.
Wall-E's one of those. So it's interesting contrast, isn't it? If you compare Wall-E and 2001 as films that are looking to the future of humanity, and 2001 is a type of film where you're like, say you're watching it in 1970 and you're like, this could happen if humanity gets its act together. And then you watch Wall-E and you're like, I'm pretty sure this is going to happen. I'm fairly certain this is where we're going.
But just without the optimistic ending, maybe. I don't know.
Almost certainly.
So Wall-E was another one. What else?
Any others?
Minority Report was also...
Oh, cool. With all the personalized ads.
And also the heavy data, like data collection that we've got nowadays. I feel like it's almost
driverless cars and all that stuff.
It's almost possible that we could be heading to a future of, algorithms and AI predicting who's most likely to commit a crime. I could see that.
I think that's actually something. I would be surprised if that doesn't start getting tested at least in the next decade. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's some privatized police force, probably in America, that would implement that in the next, say, 25 years. Some system.
Scary times indeed. But yeah, as I say, if there's any others that you think would be great ones to discuss, let us know in the comments down below. Robin, would you like to hear the answer to the riddle? And did you have any suggestions?
Man, I'd love to. Can we hear the riddle again?
Okay. I can be cracked. I can be played. I can be told. I can be made. What am I?
It's not an egg.
It's not an egg.
Oh, wait a second. But it's kind of like something inside an egg.
Oh, I feel like you've got the right answer. A yolk. Yeah.
Like a yolk, which sounds like joke. Especially if I was Swedish or something. Is it a yolk? That's not, I don't know what accent that is, but it's something. Is it? Sorry, is it a joke?
It's a joke, yes. Well done. Yeah. You've cracked the case and you've cracked the joke.
Awesome.
Well done.
Nice one.
You can, I mean, can you play? Play was the only one that I didn't.
That's a bit thin, isn't it? I don't know if that's a common phrase.
I mean,
you play a joke on someone, I guess, don't you?
Oh, that's play a prank or something. Yeah, I guess that counts.
Yeah.
Or it can be playful, a joke.
Yes, that's true. Hopefully. Normally is.
Yeah.
Crack a joke, definitely. Tell a joke. Make a joke, I guess. Yeah, make a joke.
How do comedians do it? They've got to make it. They've got to write it. They've got to write it down.
Yeah, it's got to come from somewhere, yeah.
It's a bit, I'm sure there's other answers to that riddle that would work just as well, though.
I don't know. Cracking is quite specific. You've got to be able to crack and tell something.
There's not too many things you crack, is there? You crack a case, you crack an egg, you crack a joke.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments down below. What else do you crack?
Crack me up. That's what you do.
But yeah, thank you everyone for listening to this or watching us on YouTube. If you're listening to this on a platform that allows you to, why not review us? And if you're going to review us, why not make it 5 stars? And if you're on Apple Podcasts, then feel free to leave a written review. We actually love reading those, and we might read some more of those out. And of course, it helps the podcast in whatever way it does with the algorithm or whatever. But yes, thank you everyone so much for listening. And we shall see you next time.
Bye for now.